Hey guys, welcome to episode 6. We are moving right along in this series. So this episode is dedicated to the maze. So I kind of explained a little bit in the last episode at the very end what this entails. But basically we have the ability to rotate this entire maze here. At the same time, these circle patches here, we can either swap them out or rotate them or both. In some cases we're going to need to do that. So there's one sitting in Hunrath, and how that's possible is because, I'll show you real quick. At the bottom of each one, there's a swap device that'll take the whole piece and swap it with the one that's in Hunrath. So as you can imagine, this is going to entail a lot, and we can also, when we take a piece to Hunrath, we can rotate it there and then bring it back. So as you can imagine, there is a lot of jumping around and going back and forth and things like that. So I haven't exactly nailed down the most efficient way to do this. I do know how to do it, and I do know it's going to take some time. So that's why I was like, I want this to be its own episode. Okay, so let's see. Usually I build up to the that middle one there first. So let's do that. So we want, hold on, let's rotate it this way. Actually, that's not going to help us, is it? Okay. Because one of these doesn't have an entrance. If you can see, there's an entrance there, there's one below me, and then over here there isn't one. So you do have to account for that, because that is definitely, I've mucked that up plenty of times. Okay, so we are going to, let's start by swapping this piece for the straight one, so we can go straight here. We're going to go straight, and then we're going to rotate this one so we can bend that way, and then we're going to rotate this one so we can go out that way, if that makes sense. So let's go do that. Yeah, so if I like walk in this right now, I'm going to hit a wall somewhere. There it is. So I think, actually, yeah, let me just see. Maybe it's, hello, come on. Yeah, we went that way, and that's obviously not going to be productive, so. I'm still trying to get the hang of this one. For the most part, I got it down, but it still involves a lot of trial and error. I'm not positive on it. Okay. So, this is the part in Hunrath. There was one piece here, it was a straight one. But now that we swapped it out with this rotated one, it's now in the puzzle waiting for us in Marais. So I'm just thinking about which way this one, when we swap the other one, I guess we don't really need to since they're both angle pieces. So basically, if I went down there and I took that swap back, I would take this part with me and bring back the one that we just swapped in. So in order to keep the one that we swapped in, I have to use a different swap device entirely. So that's what this part's for. So remember this door from earlier? We were on the other side of it. So we're going to take these devices back. This is why I said building this bridge is important, because we're going to be coming back here plenty of times when we want to swap. I'm using the word swap a lot and for very different reasons, so I really hope this isn't confusing, but I mean, by now you probably have a grip of what's going on. As I do this more, you'll get the idea if you don't understand already. I hope I don't come off as like, oh, I play this game that's full of puzzles, like, I'm a smarty pants. Like, it is not like that. I just, honestly, I like the aesthetic, and I mean, yeah, it's like satisfying to like solve puzzles, but I needed a walkthrough. There's no way I could like do it on my own. If I tried to do this on my own, there are things in this game that I just like, I wouldn't have finished it. It would have been like over my head. I swear these kinds of games are what like NASA scientists play in their free time. Because things like Overwatch and Apex are not intellectual enough or some shit. I don't know, I figure if you're really smart, you need like something complicated to entertain you. I could be entirely wrong. I'm probably wrong. I don't know. Nothing is simple. That's the takeaway. At any rate, we're gonna rotate this thing 90 degrees. And we're gonna take it back, because we do need it back. We just needed it to rotate. Okay, so now that first section is done. We're gonna rotate the maze, get to that angle piece, and then rotate that. I might need to swap it out for the other angle piece, because sometimes it doesn't always match up the way it rotates. So if that's the case, this will take even longer. Yeah, okay, so now that's going through, which is good. But let's go up here so we can just get a bird's eye of what's going on. Okay, so yes. So now we're gonna rotate that piece. So we're going to do that. Bring that over here. And hopefully rotating this will be enough, but we'll see. I have a hard time visualizing these angle pieces because they both like rotate differently because they're positioned differently. This part might take a little bit, so if it does, I apologize, and maybe I'll tell a story to make this a little more interesting. Okay, so we're gonna... Okay, oh jeez, alright, hold on, I need to just, like, think about it. I don't use a walkthrough for this part, because I found out it just gets more complicated when you try to use a walkthrough, because other people are rotating things differently. They don't tell you if they're using the up or the down button, so it just gets, like, more complicated. So I just always use the down button and just do this part on my own. It's just easier to do through trial and error. Okay, but so I've learned over time that if you're looking down at the maze at this piece, you're viewing it from like up here looking down, if that makes any sense. So I'm gonna need this, I think. I think that's good. If it's not, I might need to swap it out. So let's see. It could be entirely wrong. I might have just rotated it the wrong way. There's really no way to know. I mean, the only way to know is just go to the back and forth and go to the top and look at it, and if you fucked up, then you can fix it. That's my strategy anyway. I'm sure there's a better way to be doing this, but I'm still having fun, so. Did I fuck it up? Yeah. Yeah, so I need to see, like, because if I rotate this, this section over here will shoot past this and be like over here. So I need to swap this one for that one over there. So to do that, oh jeez Louise. Since we're not going to be using that section, let's just rotate that over here. Swap that part first, because there's only one slot, so I need to swap this one out, and then that's going to be in Hunrath, and then go back to Hunrath with that one, which will swap this one back in. Swapping and rotating, that's the theme here. I can't, okay, one thing I always like to think about is I can't imagine the complexity of trying to make this game. Like trying to conceive all of these puzzles. Because it's one thing to just try and solve it, right? Most people can solve a puzzle. Trying to create a puzzle is like on a whole new level. That requires, I mean, these people at Cyan Worlds, they are geniuses. There's no question. They have made so many puzzles and games like this that are just so in-depth, and you have to be extremely perceptive, and things like that. It's just, yeah, I would just love to spend a day with these guys. And when I say guys, I don't mean men, by the way. I mean, like, people. I'm not, you know, just want to clear that up. It's a huge team of people that is working on this game, and I mean, it makes sense, because gee whiz. Okay, so we've now swapped in that, I believe it's a right angle piece here. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna, sorry for the burp, we're gonna rotate this. And we're gonna swap this one for the one that's in Hunrath. And it's probably gonna be the wrong orientation. Actually, let me go back up, and I might be able to save us some time if I get the orientation right while we're there. Okay, so I'm looking down at it. It's gotta be... Okay, I think I got it. I think this is the most complicated part of the game. This and the gauntlet that we just went through. Like these two puzzles, and they're back to back, so right when you solve one, you go to the other, and it's just like, when I first did this, it was like mentally just taxing. Okay. Actually, I think that's right. Okay. Well, actually, there's no way for me to know. I don't know what I was just saying there. The only way we're going to know is if we go back, so... So, I had a cousin that, when I was growing up, played some of the Myst games, and Myst was like the games that, or was the franchise that preceded this by like 20 years. But it was like same concept, like beautiful world, exploring the environment, changing things about it, to progress and learn more about your circumstances. The concept has generally always been the same with these kinds of games. and I just like fell in love with it. I really had an affinity, and I still do, for like 3D art. So seeing like 3D worlds, oh hey, perfect. So now all we have to do is rotate this one, and then we're good to go. I really had an affinity for 3D worlds and everything, just the way that they looked, and I don't know, just it's something about an alien world, or like a place that isn't Earth, that always just like fascinated me, even if it's like, you know, in a 3D space or like a cinema 3D kind of environment. It was still just like, I would go on Google Images and just type in like Bryce was a program that you could use to make 3D environments, and in my, I think it was in middle school, we were exposed to that for the first time, and that just like opened up a whole realm of like exciting curiosity for me. I was all about that. I'm sure you can still get Bryce. I don't know if they like updated it, or at the very least patched it for like newer operating systems, but I would be so into exploring that again, because it was super fun. I would just like make landscapes and floating shapes and just like weird stuff, and it was just cool. It was just like a really fun way for me to like express myself. That medium, for some reason, just like really speaks to me, I guess. I don't know. Oh, I think we did it, guys. Alright, okay, so now... Oh, it's... yeah, we're good. Let's just walk through it. Nice. Thought I might have to rotate it, but we're good. Alright. So we're going straight across to this guy. Oh, wait. This whole time, have I been able to actually just, like, go under? Okay, whatever. I just realized. Could have saved us a lot of time. I just learned that just now, though. So we open that up. That's going to be important. If this actually connects, I'm going to be so mad at myself. Oh, where does this go? Oh. Okay, never mind. This doesn't really tell me anything new. Okay. Nope, it's still gonna take a long time. Okay, so we're gonna make our way back, and I'm gonna explain what we have to do next, because it's not exactly straightforward. This part's a little bit trickier, what we're about to do. Okay. So since we can't go straight across, we're gonna have to make it so that we can go from where we are here to the one of the right sides here. Building straight across is one of the easiest things to do, but it's kind of a different story when you're trying to go to the right, because remember one of these things, that one over there, there's no entrance there, and there's only one straight piece. So if you kind of like think about it, there's really only like one way to do this. And I have to think about it. Okay. Actually, hold on a second. I have to really think about this. I know I just turned it around to 360. I just want to make sure I get this right. Okay, so there's one of the... Oh, okay. Alright, so I'm going to rotate. We're going to start by rotating this one. So let's do that. I have to do this part piece by piece because it just... And then it like kind of reveals itself to me. If I try to do it all at once, I get overwhelmed and then it takes me a really long time. Which is probably what's going to happen because now that I'm recording it, I'm under pressure and my brain's not going to work as well. Even though the last three episodes literally have 0 views, so... It's still fun to do this. Okay. Alright, so I have to rotate this one so that it is like that, I think. Can you imagine what life would be like if we actually had devices like this? Maybe in the future. It's not impossible. It's definitely far out, and I'll be long dead before that happens. Okay. So that, I think, is right. Yep, and then... Okay. So we got, yeah, we got that one bent piece. That might actually be what we need here. Yeah, let's see how that looks. Oh, fun fact. When I was in that same art class, when I was doing that, like, Bryce 3D stuff, that art teacher was insane. I'll never forget her, Mrs. Fish. She was a fishy one indeed. I was like, it was like some project where we were like collaging a bunch of like digital images together, and one of them was a tank. And mind you, I was in like, let's see, this was in, okay, it was 8th grade, right? And I don't think anybody in 8th grade has political views just yet, or at the very least they're at their infancy. I did not. I didn't really start paying attention to politics until I went to college. So I like had no political identity whatsoever, and I found a picture of a tank, and I was like, that's a cool looking tank. I'm gonna put that tank in, like, you know, like a military tank. I'm gonna put that like in my collage. At the time, I did not realize it was like a Panzer, like the tanks that the Nazis used, basically. But it didn't. It's not like it had like the Nazi insignia on it and everything. Like, it didn't have the like swastika or anything. So I had no idea that it was like connected to this group of like terrible, terrible, terrible people. I was just like, that's a cool tank, and like that was the end of it, right? But my teacher sees it, and immediately, instead of just like being like, hey, I don't know if you know this, like, that tank is associated with a terrible, terrible part of history. No, right away she was like, are you anti-Semitic? Which I was like, I don't know what that means. I like had to go, I went home and like told Mom all this. I was like, Mom, what does anti-Semitic mean? And she looked at me and she was like, why do you need to know, like, how did this come up, you know? A very like understanding response. And And I was like, oh, my art teacher called me that. I was like, is it a good thing? And she was like, are you kidding me? And then there was this whole thing. It was this whole thing. And long story short, I don't really know what happened beyond that, because it obviously like just didn't. I was just like, it was just way beyond me at that point. And like, mom must have like given her a good beating down, because she really backed off from that point on. She didn't even really like engage me anymore, which was fine. I was like, you know, I'm not trying to be this like perfect student or anything either. I was just like, I'm just here to like create cool art, and I accidentally used the wrong tank, and then it just like blew up. I still laugh about that from time to time. Even though it's like, it's a terrible thing. Of course it's like it's a terrible thing, but I didn't know that. I didn't, you know, and had I known, obviously I would have like just picked a different thing, but I just like wasn't thinking about it like that. So that was just one of my school experiences. I've had, God, you know, when I think about it, I've really had a really weird like childhood and like school experiences and stuff. It's like very atypical. I always kind of hung out with I don't know, I was always on the outskirts of like social circles, so I would hang out with people that were like really, like, for the most part, down to earth, because they were in a position where they had to be. Because, you know, when you're not in like specific social circles, you're just like, why? You know? And that's kind of like the end of it. You're just like, you know, how come I find that I fit into these circles better than other circles? And you do, like, you go through this whole process of like self-analysis and everything, and you know, you just want to like know more, or at least that was the case for me. And you don't really get an answer either. You just kind of like, you're like, well, I just, you know, for lack of a better word, I just vibe better with these people than other circles. And yeah, so I hung out with like a lot of interesting people, I guess you could say. Some were weirdos, some had problems, most of them didn't. They were just different for one reason or another, and so was I. So, you know, I noticed pretty quickly at a young age that I just process things differently, I guess you could say. And there's nothing wrong with that. For the longest time, I thought there was. I was like, why am I in this position? You know, how come X, Y, Z are true for like these many people that I've noticed, but they're not true for me, or something else. And again, you go through this whole like process of self-analysis, and I still do, to a large part. There are still things about myself that I'm learning, you know, and I'm like, I'm gonna be 26 in like a month, so it's definitely like a whole process, for sure. But that I don't think is unique. I think that is something that everybody goes through. You know, this whole like self-discovery and what's my footing in the world, especially after college. Then you're just like, you know, because you have this roadmap your whole life, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, like fourth grade, you know, what comes next is fifth grade, and then, you know, and that continues up until 12th grade, and then you're like, okay, I go to college, and there you get a little taste of like the ambiguity of life, where you're just like, oh, where do I go? What do I want to study? What do I want to do for the rest of my life? And granted, that is like a huge undertaking for somebody that's not even 18 for the most part. It is a wild thing. And then you go off to college, and then you kind of learn more. That's when you really start to learn more about yourself, and the way you perceive the world, and what your values are, and for the most part, people change, because it's a growing experience. You're exposed to different backgrounds of like people that you've never met before. Like when I was studying Wolof, which is the language that they speak in Senegal, aside from French, because it was colonized by the French. My teacher was obviously Senegalese, so that process of being exposed to not just a new culture and learning about it, but like he invited us over, because the class was really small. I mean, it was just 2 students. It was never more than 2 students, me and one other person. And so he would invite us over in the summer when I took summer classes to break fasting during Ramadan. And I grew up Christian household and everything, and I still hold those values with me for sure. That's like a very important part of like my culture, and like, I don't want to get like too spiritually. I don't really have the need to have to explain my spiritual beliefs really to anybody except myself. So I don't want to like get too much into that, because that is to me like a very personal thing, and it's a hot button topic for a lot of people, and it's just something that I'm interested in keeping for me. Not everybody has to know everything, but being exposed to like new religions and cultures and things like that really like definitely shaped my my perspective a lot. And even people that were like me, but they just thought about things differently, that was also a whole experience too. And that's kind of like the beauty of it, is that you're all there to learn and gain intellectual capital, and learn more about the world and your place in it, and what your values are, while also living in a community that's basically just a bunch of friends, and it's like the best time ever, right? Like, people always say, they're like, oh, college is the best years of your life, you're gonna absolutely like love it, and I 100% agree. I think I fall into that camp too. It was just a fantastic time, and now that I'm like out of college, like, and I don't have all the support that I did, it's definitely harder. Like, it's definitely, and I haven't really quite found what I want to do exactly. And, and I'm trying to like get my footing in the world, and it's like really difficult because, no one wants to pay you. It's really competitive. The story. Almost everybody goes through this. And it's really trying. It's really scary is what it is. But, it's one of those things where you keep at it, you pursue and you keep pursuing, and then eventually you get to where you need to be. And everything just kind of works out, not everything has to be set in stone. But it is definitely like a very stressful part of your life, perhaps the most stressful, because everything is just so turbulent. But I think it's also like such an opportunity to grow as a person as well, because you're faced with the decision of like, how am I going to confront these problems? How am I going to approach my woes? Am I going to drown it in alcohol? Am I going to just smoke weed and pretend like it's not a problem? Am I going to drown myself in video games and just not be productive? Or am I going to make an effort to like exercise every day, eat well, try to sleep well, you know, and that just doing that takes a lot in a person. Oh, by the way, we solved the maze. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been going on this whole tangent about life and everything. But that was actually, you know, that actually worked out really well. But yeah, you know, long story short, keep at it. If you're in a place where you're feeling uneasy, it's okay. That's normal. Like, things are gonna be okay, and you'll be fine. Everything works out in the end. Okay, so we just brought this, like, capsule up. I don't know if this is gonna... I guess that's just not gonna be a thing. I think we saw the last message, so I think we're just good to go. So as you can see, this is inviting. So since this episode's probably really long, I'm just gonna get off of this thing, and then we'll kind of explore a little of the next part. But I'm probably going to stop here because I'm sure this is already a pretty long episode. See, so these are the gates that we just unlocked. We wouldn't have been able to pass through those. And over here we see lasers flying and things like that. There's a battle happening right now, obviously. And it's between the Mo thing and the villain, or the villain. I guess it's villain, but I've been saying villain this whole time. Okay. So we are now in a completely different part of the map. You'll see over there's a swap device. We've been to that area before. So, before I go too far, I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to pick up right here in the next episode. See you guys next time.